The fluorescent lights in the hospital corridor buzzed like angry bees, casting a cold, sterile glow over the linoleum floors. Emily gripped the edges of her jacket, feeling the seams bite into her palms as she stared at the closed double doors. Inside, her son was fighting for his life. The doctor emerged, wiping his glasses on the hem of his lab coat, his face grim. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Oren has less than 24 hours." The words punched the air from her lungs. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself against the wall. Time, once endless and sprawling, had suddenly folded into a tiny, ticking box. 24 hours. No second chances, no resets. Emily stumbled into the room, her breath catching at the sight of her boy. Pale, so small against the massive hospital bed, wires snaking from his arms like vines. Oren's eyelids fluttered open, and for a moment, there was a glint of mischief in his tired eyes. Hmm? Hey, Mom, he rasped. Bet you didn't think I'd get a vacation day. She laughed through her tears and leaned down to kiss his forehead. In the sterile silence of that hospital room, memories flooded her mind. It hadn't always been this way. She remembered the day she went into labor with Oren's little sister. Chaos reigned. Emily screaming, nurses bustling, machines beeping erratically. And in the middle of it all, little Oren, standing in the corner of the delivery room with a backpack and a juice box, eyes wide like saucers. When baby Arya was finally born, pink and howling, Oren had tiptoed closer, peering into the bundle of blankets. "She's kind of squishy," he declared with the brutal honesty only a 5-year-old could muster. "Can I hold her?" Months passed. What started as innocent fascination quickly soured, with every "isn't she adorable" from guests, and every second Emily spent rocking Arya instead of building block towers. A tiny storm brewed inside Oren. It wasn't long before small things began to happen. Lego towers mysteriously collapsing, stuffed animals disappearing, baby bottles found in the dog's water bowl. One night, after a particularly brutal tantrum where Oren accused Arya of stealing his life, he packed a small suitcase, grabbed a handful of cookies, and marched out the door. He didn't get far. Barely 2 blocks from home, a distracted driver, a screech of tires, and then darkness. Emily's world had shattered the moment she got the call. Now, she sat here, watching the monitors, willing them not to flatline. "Oren," she whispered, "I'm sorry for everything. Please, stay." He squeezed her hand weakly. "Not your fault, Mom. I was a dummy." "No," she said fiercely. "You were just a kid, and I should have been better." Oren's eyes fluttered shut again, exhaustion dragging him under. Time was slipping away. Back at home, chaos brewed anew. Arya, now 4, was a whirlwind of confusion and guilt. She didn't fully understand what was happening, only that everyone was crying and no one had the energy to braid her hair anymore. Meanwhile, the rest of the Sprunky family, a patchwork tribe of misfits, musicians, and malfunctioning robots, gathered awkwardly in the living room. Ray, the overly dramatic uncle, paced the floor. "We must do something. This cannot be Oren's final act." Black, ever the cynic, snorted. "What do you suggest? A magical rock concert?" Rye, strumming a guitar absently, murmured, "Not a bad idea." Amidst the squabbling, a crazy plan was born. If they only had 24 hours with Oren, then by all the laws of music, mischief, and mayhem, they would give him the greatest final day anyone had ever seen. By sunrise, the plan was underway. Man, I'm being bleary. By sunrise, the plan was underway. Emily, blear-eyed but determined, bundled Oren into a wheelchair. sneaking him out of the hospital like a pair of teenage delinquents on a jailbreak. The first stop was the beach. Oren, bundled in blankets, stared wide-eyed at the shimmering expanse of water. He hadn't seen the ocean since he was little. Or maybe ever, Emily realized with a pang. WYRUM, the family's loyal and slightly radioactive dog, immediately charged into the surf, barking like a maniac. Moments later, he returned, carrying something suspiciously like a crab latched to his tail. Oren laughed until he wheezed, and Emily felt a knot loosen in her chest. They built lopsided sandcastles, buried Gray up to his neck in sand, only slightly on purpose, and roasted marshmallows over a beach bonfire that may or may not have been entirely legal. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of fire and wine, Oren turned to his mother. "This is the best day ever," he said. But fate, cruel as always, wasn't done with them. That night, as the family lounged around telling stories, a loud crash sounded from the edge of the woods. A figure emerged, cloaked, sinister, dragging something metallic behind them. It was a villain straight out of a cartoon, Baron von Blip, the notorious robot trafficker, whose schemes had been the stuff of sprunky bedtime stories for years. "I've come for the sprunky robots," he declared dramatically. "Surrender them or face obliteration." Everyone stared at him. Then I muttered, "Bro, you seriously rehearsed that in the mirror, didn't you?" With conflict, ignoring the heckling, he snapped his fingers. Traps sprung from the ground, nets, cages, magnetic snares. Chaos erupted. Gray screamed and ran straight into a net, getting tangled like a panicked squirrel. Black tried to punch a robot, but ended up punching himself in the face thanks to a spring-leaded booby trap. WYRUM bit someone, possibly on purpose. Quatre, Oran, weak but determined, tried to wheel himself toward the fray. "No," Emily said, grabbing the handles. "Not today." Together, they pushed through the battlefield, dodging flying gadgets and rogue robots. Arya clung to Emily's leg like a baby koala, shrieking, "Get him, Ma!" Ma! Cornered against a cliff, the family braced for the final blow. But Oren, mischievous sparkle intact, yanked a hidden lever on his wheelchair. A hidden rocket booster activated. The wheelchair launched straight at Von Blip, knocking him clean into a crab-infested tide pool. Silence. Then laughter, uncontrollable, roaring laughter. Even Oren, gasping for air, clutched his ribs and howled. Von Blip, dripping wet and defeated, slunk away under the moonlight. Back at home, bruised and battered but alive, they collapsed into a heap of blankets and pillows. Oren was exhausted, his breathing shallow. Emily curled beside him, holding his hand. "I love you, kiddo," she whispered. "Love you more," he mumbled, eyes closing. Minutes passed. Approaching 10:30, the clock ticked closer to the dreaded 24-hour mark. Everyone held their breath. And then Oren snored. Soft, rasping, alive. Snores. Emily blinked, stunned. He? A new doctor rushed in from the hospital, caught up with them. At last, panting, he waved a paper wildly. Wait. There was a mistake. It wasn't Oren's chart. It was some 80-year-old guy with the same name. Silence. And then the room exploded into cheers